Here we go. Back with the Iron Sights podcast and an After Dark version with JP. JP, what's up?
What's up, man?
It's good to have you back. It's been a little bit since we sat down the last time. And in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about your experience at SHOT Show. I was unable to go there. And I'm a little bummed. Looked like you guys had some fun out there. But I also know there was a lot of cool stuff that came up. People got to reconnect. There was a lot of cool innovation that happened out there. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and some of your takeaways, some of the key highlights, and some of the things that maybe struck you or surprised you.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. And then today I want to also talk about sort of coming off the back end of SHOT Show and some of the things that are happening in the industry from a social perspective, kind of dig into maybe the lack of transparency, or some might even look at it as a little bit of dishonesty.
I think that
I guess that just kind of comes along with these types of shows and the media that it presents, and kind of.
I mean, yeah, it's happening everywhere all the time, not just at shows. But it was definitely interesting that it was evident to me at the shows.
Yeah, maybe putting on a front. But let's talk about the show, man. So, you were there over a couple of days, and
I actually showed up late Wednesday. I've been really bad about traveling and getting my workouts in, so I made it a point to like get there, take a nap. So I drove really early in the morning to Vegas, and then get a workout in, and that ended up bleeding through most of my day. So I actually showed up really late Wednesday. So really it was like a Thursday, Friday SHOT Show for me.
I have to be honest with you. Like, as much as I wanted to go to SHOT Show, I hate Vegas. I think I just hate it. So I spent, I think from like probably the time I was 21 to the time I was 24, I went there way too many times. Spent and lost and threw away way too much money in that place, and it wasn't on gambling. It's like the $19 cocktail, or whatever, and the $40 cover charge or whatever. I probably took like 8 or 10 years off my life in that place. I'm just not a huge fan. I mean, I get it. There's the glitz, the glam, all that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of bright, shiny objects, and
I know. Well,
but it's fucking filthy.
I don't know.
It's filthy out there. I can't stand it. And by the way, if I lose $100 at the jackback or blackjack table, I'm sick for a week about it. Like,
losing money gambling doesn't feel great at all.
Yeah, so like, I'm not.
You think about everything you could have bought with that.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm not sorry about that at all. But I am sorry that I missed what I did see, and what I could feel, which was palpable, was the community getting together. And the strength in community and people being back out. I mean, there wasn't a SHOT Show in 2021. It was canceled, right? So, there'd been a long time coming. It was just very highly anticipated. And the other thing that I saw about it was, even going into the final or the week before, there was a lot of question about whether or not it was going to even happen or not. What with the the whole Omicron thing and what was going on. Yeah. People were maybe pulling out, deciding not to go. Vendors were having a tough time. Obviously, attendees were checking in. Hey, I'm still going. Are you going? They were doing that publicly. So it was great to see that.
The whole thing is so weird how that whole thing transpired.
Yeah, talk about that, man.
Well, there's all that, right? And there's also some companies who were vocal about, like, these are companies I really like. So it kind of hurt my feelings that I was going and they were saying these things, but they're like, you're not a patriot if you go to SHOT Show, and they're going to force you to wear masks and shit like that, right? And that really got to me because, like, I'm all about my business. And it isn't just me making money. That means like growing and doing what I can for the people around me. And that's what my business is all about. So kind of hurt my feelings that massive brands that I really, really like were pretty much shitting on people if you go. But it's also easy for these massive brands that are like massive to say that shit and be like, we don't need a network because we set up meetings and we can afford to take a private jet to fly and have these meetings.
There's a lot of truth in that, man.
It's not me, dude. I'm not there yet. I can't take a private jet and then run into people that I ran into at SHOT Show that I've never met in my life that I totally gained a lot from. You know what I mean? That's just not where I'm at yet. So for me as a business owner, SHOT Show was big for me. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, The mask thing, that was hilarious.
Okay, so people are coming from all over the country, the world for that matter, in some cases, right? And to set this up a little bit, SHOT Show, the whole organization, they do. You have to. They're going to vet who gets into that show. Not just anybody can show up, right? You have to be involved within the industry at some point, or at some level. Whether you sell a product, you manufacture a product, you represent a product, or you're media of some kind, or you're a buyer, right, for some company, like an intermediary.
There's a whole process
to get in. So if you're not media, you pretty much have to pay for being a business, which I did, which is not fun because for shows, it's like, 10, 20, 30, $50 tops to get into a show. And this was like $350 for like entry level business owner for a ticket. Yeah. I mean,
and there's a ton of proof of like, I need a website, a business card, proof that your face is somewhere on this website with products,
paycheck stubs, something like that.
Yes, crazy shit, dude. Luckily, I have a website that does have my face, and I didn't know that until I got there. I was totally unprepared for that. But yeah, so basically, even if you have a lot of money to go, you still have to be connected somehow to get to SHOT Show. And dude, I've been to a lot of like car shows, video game conventions shows, and in some of the car shows I'm talking about are like the newest car from Ford is there, the newest car from Acura, whatever, right? I've never been to a show this massive. It was fucking massive. There was so many rooms, so much, dude. I walked 40,000 steps the first day. And that wasn't like 40,000 steps, good for you. That was like not sitting down once until dinner time. So even if you're standing still, that's not steps counted, but my fucking knees hurt so bad, dude.
Yeah. It's so, to paint the pictures, what way I understand it was stretched over across two massive hotels,
Two massive hotels on the strip. Yeah. And there's like a bridge gapping the two. And like, one day you could do a speed run and cover all of it, but you're not talking to anybody.
Right. You're just,
Yeah. So like me doing 2 days was like enough for me to get through, and actually like make connections with people.
So usually at these things, because I have a lot of experience with things, a lot of fitness industry shows, right? And there's a couple different types of mindsets of people going. There's the, I'm going to go to be seen, to see and be seen, like, and maybe just connect with some people like my old friends or, in the industry because it's the one time a year we get together or, we have the opportunity. And then there's the whole party aspect, right? The big vendors generally are throwing a party. That's what they do. It's Vegas. So it's kind of, they generally ramp it up a notch, and you've got, the one vendor trying to outdo the other vendor and who threw the biggest party and, or whatever.
That's the thing.
There's that, right? And then there's the other part of it where people are genuinely going there to do business, right? To build those relationships, to sign big contracts, to make big purchases, and or to set up the next big kind of partnership or whatever it is. And then there can kind of be anything in between.
Yeah.
This, this particular show, again, there hadn't been one in a year, right? So there was
it's weird for me because this is my first SHOT Show. So to come back to this one where everybody was like, there's a lot on this because a lot of people didn't want to show up because of like the moral value of you shouldn't be forced to wear a mask in this community when you're fighting for freedom and patriotism and rights and stuff like that.
That's a slippery slope.
Yeah. So there was that. So that's weird. Right. But then also, like we've talked about previously, the gun community is so new, in terms of like the civilian world and like how fast it's rapidly growing, that I'm sure this was like a huge SHOT Show to go to, simply because everybody's competing with each other now. And so you have to drive prices down to compete with the next person. And like, I'll talk a little bit more later about like how there's some optics that are a better price point now that company didn't have price points like this 5 years ago.
I love it. Innovation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So like, I think this was a really good one to go to. Even if it was my first one, I couldn't say from the previous years. I do have friends that have been to the previous ones. But I think across the board, this is interesting because of all that innovation on a business level. But then also some people, I think, were so unprepared to know if it was or wasn't going to happen.
Oh, interesting.
Like, So like, for example, I don't actually know the reason behind this, but Surefire is one of my favorite companies, and they had face value there and meeting rooms, nothing else.
Wow.
There was no products. There's nothing to demo. There's no new shit, and they have new shit coming out. So that was kind of weird to me. I don't know what the reason is. I almost feel like they weren't sure if they were invested or not, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question.
Yeah, so shit like that. That's why it's weird, right? Because I think some people are 1 foot in, 1 foot out when it comes to that. And I could be wrong here, but that's what it seemed like with a handful of companies.
Well, again, going back, I mean, right up until the last minute, there was a question about who was going to be there and who wasn't. And it's an investment for a company. I mean, you mentioned it being $350, to go. And some people might look at that and go, come on, man, $350 for the value that you could get out of it. Yeah. It's not a lot. Well, I looked at the prices as well, because I was trying to make it work out for me. And it was going to cost me more like $750, which is a bit of a larger investment. Yeah. But that doesn't include the time away from work, the time away from, the hotels, the travel, the food, and everything else. It's a major investment. So if you're taking an entire team and you've got to get product on a plane or on a van or whatever, or in a van or in a truck to get it there, you got to set it up whenever. That is a major investment from a company. I mean, they look at some of these shows will make or break the company for the year, in terms of what they do or they don't do. So I imagine as a consumer or somebody who's, sort of a fan of some kind of, of Surefire for some of the products they turn out, that can be a little bit shocking. But can you go back to the mask thing for a second? Right.
Yeah.
And how that was a thing. And I didn't appreciate some of the shit I saw kind of coming over there. I was like, do we really need to go there with this? I understand if you have your convictions, but to call other people out and disparage them for wanting to go regardless. But so I think that's another concept. But what was the reality?
Let's talk about this for a second. First of all, the size of my business right now, I'm super happy with where I'm going, and it's constantly growing in a healthy manner. So I have no complaints. But with that being said, I'm not massive enough to book, meetings with somebody like Surefire. I'm just not, and people saying this shit are, right? So this is very valuable to me, because right now, Train with Purpose pays my bills, right? So I need to be there, and as like a business person, not just somebody that's there to party, right? I know I don't drink, but I did partake in the parties, and I left early. You know what I mean? Because I knew I had a big day the next day. So with the mask thing, people saying shit like that, I think it's kind of funny. People we know, people we don't know that are massive across the board. I almost feel like people were scared to go because they were almost feeling like they were going to get shunned.
Ostracized?
Yeah, like if they went. And what's funny about that...
It's not funny.
Yeah, not that. But what's funny about the idea that all that transpired over the internet is I felt kind of guilty, but there was like no way I was not going to go as a business. But I tell you what, when I got there, I seen any gun influencer or personality you can think of there. So I wasn't alone, right? Whether it's for the parties or for the business, I wasn't alone. Name anybody that's an influencer in the gun world, anybody that has more than a couple thousand followers, you know what I mean? I seen them. So it wasn't just me. So all these people shitting on people that do this, dude, you're like one of 3 people that really have the power to say that, right? Now, with that being said, I did notice a trend that was really weird to me, and this could just be me thinking, on my own and just, reaching and putting things together. But it seems as though anybody who was tied to a certain firearms company who like was very vocal about not going because of the mask thing, it almost seems like anybody who is tied to them in terms of this is the firearm they use, whether it's sponsorship or anything like that. They didn't go.
So
and that's too bad to me, because this is some of my favorite, most influential people in my life.
Yeah, let's break that down a second. So let's say you are a company that provides maybe a service, like maybe firearms instruction, right? And you are representing, whether you're saying you are, you aren't, but you only use this brand of firearms.
Yeah.
And that brand of firearms, and so that's a big piece of your company, right? Like it's a big piece of your brand, and they're maybe they're supplying you with equipment. That's expensive equipment. There's value in that. There's relationships built there, and again, these are the same massive companies that can afford not to be there and have influence. What you're saying is those companies influenced those people not to be there. Is that what I hear you suggesting?
I'm suggesting in my head. No one told me this. This is from me walking around for a couple days there and being like, that's really interesting that this firearms brand was very vocal about not going because freedom and masks. Mm-hmm. And then it seems as though there was like a handful of people that I was like super excited to like get FaceTime with. That runs that company's firearm that wasn't there. And no one told me this. I feel like to me, that looks pretty clear cut that they didn't show up when SHOT Show's the biggest firearms community show in the world.
I want to kind of compare and contrast this whole mask thing, because like anything else, you can try and make everything black and white. And the reality of it is it's not.
Yeah.
There's nuance to stuff. And you just mentioned that, and that is your situation, right? Your particular situation. This would be the same if you were in some kind of an altercation. There's situational awareness, or there's a situation that you're going to have to now evaluate, assess, and then take action to based on what's happening right in front of you or what your particular situation is. So how you handle that could be very, very different than the other person, right? And how they handle that. We're talking about business right now. We're talking about business. And now, so we're talking about the mask thing, and we're basically what was kind of going across the airwaves there was, if you go to this thing, you're not a patriot.
Yeah. That's pretty much what they're saying.
Because Las Vegas as a city within the state of Nevada has a mask mandate within the hotels, right? I would bet if you went and talked to those casino owners, to those hotel owners, they would just, if they could, they would they don't want people wearing masks. They recognize that's not good for their business.
Yeah, it's not comfortable, right?
So they don't want that, but they can't operate otherwise.
Yeah.
Right. They can't, not right now. So they're making compromises. Right. Mm-hmm. And again, compromising to be inconvenienced so that you can better yourself and get to the next level for a little while without making a big deal about it. And when I say that, that's just not being public about it. I'm not saying you don't feel strongly or have strong convictions about it, because I can relate this to the fitness industry. The way we've been handled here in this county, right, as compared to a neighboring county, which I can almost hit a rock or throw a rock and hit from here, has been completely different. I've been harassed. I've been fined. I've had notices posted on my door for some shit I didn't do. Yeah. Right. And so for you to say, well, you know, if people are in there wearing masks, then I'm not telling anybody wear a mask. They're wearing a mask. If they want to wear a mask, it's their fucking choice to wear a mask. Yep. So don't tell me that because they're wearing masks, I'm somehow, not a patriot, or this person isn't a patriot. That's as good as, well, I'll come back to that analogy later. I just think it's really poor play. Like, we're supposed to be coming together, and part of being an American is making your choices. Yeah. Right. And you shitting on somebody for making a choice to be there just because you don't like it doesn't mean they're not a patriot. I have a big problem with that too, man. I really do. But again, what's the reality of that? I mean, what did it look like when you got there?
So, okay. Two things that I'm going to say from that. One, I'm really disappointed that company and all the people who rock, or not all the people, but the big names that rock their stuff, I'm really disappointed they didn't go, because, man, I'm a huge fan, right? Okay, so there's that. And the second thing is, this is a firearms event. So what do you think happened when every single door in the hotel, every single room had two people telling you, please put your mask on, you need to have a mask on, this, and that? What do you think happened?
Yeah, I'm sure probably people were pretty resistant to it.
Yeah. It's called, they got middle fingers. I actually was seeing people say, yeah, fuck off. Now, I'm not saying, you got to tell people that are wearing that. You don't have to tell people that are telling you to wear a mask to fuck off. You don't have to be that way. But the point is that no one wore masks. I don't know how many people were there, but again, I've never been to an event this big, and I've been to a Kanye West concert. So my point in saying is, there is just no one giving a fuck. You had a couple of vendors, a couple of booths, it seemed like, that were the bigger names that maybe they were trying to play within the rules. And I'm talking actually like single digits. So like no one wore masks, dude. Nobody. So all these people are saying, I don't want to have to wear a mask. Well, if you would have showed up, you wouldn't have had to wear a mask, because guess what? No one wore a mask. It got to the point to where the last day I was there, they had people doing their job, standing outside of every door in every room saying, please, can you guys just try and put a mask on? Do me a favor. Like, they were like asking us, and it got to the point to where they absolutely had no idea how to respond to hundreds, possibly thousands of people walking through the door telling them, no, we're not putting masks on. So I think there's a couple of layers there that we could talk about if you really wanted to, in terms of like, that's amazing that you have 100 doorkeepers and hundreds of people saying no, and they absolutely knew, they had no idea what to do.
Yeah, you're definitely outnumbered in a situation like that, right? I mean, is part of the whole push to what is the silent majority really doing out there?
Yeah.
What are they really thinking? And if we weren't playing silly games, or there was some pushback, how much influence can you really have?
Yeah.
So in this case, the security of that particular hotel or that particular event is just like, okay, well, look, there's not a lot we can do about this right now, so we're going to go ahead and let this one go.
Yeah.
And then here's the thing, though. It's the same thing with taking away rights or limiting people's access to things. You take away a little bit at a time, or you give up a little bit at a time, whichever side of that you're on. You keep doing that, you keep doing that, you keep doing that, and ultimately it's gone. So the next event that comes in there, whatever that happens to be, if they do the same, basically do they handle it the same way? Yeah. And then pretty soon
they just give up.
They just kind of give up, right? They kind of get tired. They get worn out.
And so I think that's interesting, because it doesn't have to just be like that at a shooting event.
No.
What that tells me is that that's the power of the silent majority. If you guys, I don't know, like, maybe it sounds ironic because we're talking about going to a show where they had a mask mandate, but that's also interesting that everybody showed up because they wanted to go to party, or like me, and they have to go for business. And guess what? No one wore a fucking mask. So like, the power of that whole thing is very interesting. And I don't think people expected that when they were talking about it leading into the show. But yeah, man, it was great to see. Not because I'm some rebel or anything, but because I just, look, dude, I'm pretty sure I've had it, the flu or whatever you want to call it, twice. And I'm not worried, because you see me take down fruits earlier and work out. So
you really got it together now. So here's a question though. So going back to these companies that were so vocal about it, didn't show up, and then had people that are, let's say, again, represented by these companies at some level that didn't show up. Is the mask the real reason they didn't come?
Yeah,
and if that's the case, that's weak.
Yeah.
That's weak
in
my mind. But number two, if it isn't the reason, and they're just using that weak reason as a reason not to come, what's the real reason they didn't come?
Yeah, that's a great question. I legitimately have tried to wrap my head around not so much the people that represent this brand, more so the brand itself that garners the power. I'm trying to figure out what it was about them, like, not wanting to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I heard about this stuff happening too, and it crossed my mind, and I really sat back and kind of thought about it. And are they really that strong in their convictions? Hey, if you are, it's America. You do whatever the hell you want. Man.
Yeah.
Don't come. If it's not, then what is it? And a couple of things crossed my mind. One of which would be, you're just doing so well. You're having such a banner year that you don't see any value in coming, because you've made X amount of dollars, right? And you don't have to go to this show to represent, because you're already set up, for this year and beyond. That's one reason. Another reason could be, well, we can't afford to go to the show because we haven't had a banner year. We've had one of the worst years ever, and we just can't afford the expense or the personnel out of the factory or out of the corporate office or whatever at this point. But then if that were the case, and I think we know that's not the case.
Yeah.
Right. I think we know that's not the case. If that's the case, then why didn't these other people that are represented by those companies go? Right. So you ask yourself that question, you can draw your own conclusion.
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy into the second one. Right. I just can't. I mean, we know where firearm sales has been in the last 18 months or so.
Yep.
But if I take a look at that first scenario, I would like to basically call out and say, these shows aren't just about you making money, right? They are about, people go to these shows to basically honor and meet the people behind the products and the services that they purchase that they feel strongly about. Yeah. So you showing up to these things is just as much about making the community stronger and showing appreciation for your customers.
100%, man.
Showing appreciation for your customers that you do give a shit and that it isn't all about money and that you want to see and hear their feedback and get their praises or again, hear the constructive criticism that they might have about you so that you can continue to make your company better and support that community. That's a little bit of a challenge for me, knowing that may have been overlooked or completely dismissed in this particular situation.
Yeah, I know that Neomag, I went to see them, and the owner, and I believe he's also the one that designs everything. I got to talk to him for a bit. And Neomag is something that I adopted in my everyday carry because I just feel like it is just better than having a magazine in your pocket. And I use the GBRS holster, which has no spare mag pouch. So I've been playing with things like that, and it's better than not having a Neomag, but I also have ran into a couple of hiccups on a regular basis.
Yeah, we've talked about those out there on the range when we've trained,
Yeah. So I was able to talk to the guy and be like, hey man, this very well could be some training issues that I need to work through, but I'm just letting you know, I'm at the range every week and I'm a fan of this product, but this is happening. Mm-hmm. Right. And he kind of alluded to it being my training, but I also do think in the back of my head, maybe there could be some innovation that could prevent this. Cause I'm a above average shooter. So if I'm running into this issue, mm-hmm. His response was closer to I've been doing this for 8 years and I've never had that happen, but you can't just think just you. My point is, and that whole story is that I had this full on conversation with him and he spent the time to talk to me and try to hash through some methods of using their products.
And to improve your own performance.
To improve what I'm dealing with on a regular basis. And I highly appreciate that. And that wouldn't have happened in my world, not today or maybe in the next year, unless I went to SHOT Show.
Yeah, I would go back to not going, the vendors that aren't going. You can post all the social media stuff you want. You can put out the pictures, you can put out the videos, you can put out the messaging or whatever. Nothing will substitute that face-to-face interaction that you have with your customer. I think when you don't, and the fact that people have been locked down or haven't been able to get to the places they want to go, didn't have this opportunity to connect with those vendors last year or those companies that they look up to or have questions about or want to find out more about before they're making a commitment. Yeah. Again, and that could be realized in a lot of revenue for said company. I guess that face-to-face time for me is, I'm a face-to-face guy. I mean, at worst case, I'm getting you on the phone, this communication through DMs or emails or forums or whatever else. I'm just not into it. There's just not a lot of value there for me. And so I know I'm not the only one. And you just kind of articulated how much value you got from that one-on-one face-to-face. And these are the only times, this is the only type of event, generally speaking, for most people that can get to, that they can make the investment of time, make the investment of money to go and do that very thing. So it pains me to believe that some of these companies don't care about that.
Yeah, man.
It's not important.
I think that, so I read this book, How to Get 1 Million Followers in a Month or some shit like that, something close to that. And one of the things that they said, they talked about Taylor Swift or something like that. And they talked about her growth as an individual brand after improving and creating a system, working with and communicating with her fans. And that was the focus for 1 year or something like that. And I want to say, if I remember in the book correctly, the person I guess is the one who coached her through it. That her sales on everything and traffic on website and everything like that went up tenfold. Right. So even as a business perspective, you have to think that has to mean something and that has to translate somehow.
Yeah. You're not bigger than your customers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that doesn't mean the customer is always right. I've had a lot of customers that couldn't have been more wrong. No. Right. And I'm not afraid to tell them.
Yeah.
Right. In all the businesses that I've I've run and been involved with and owned. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying your customer is your lifeblood, right? That is who is paying your bills. And as soon as you lose sight of that and lose connection with that, this is where the next thing comes in, which is, and you alluded to this at the beginning, that's when you lose your business. That's when you lose your track. That's when you lose a handle because you don't have a finger on the pulse of what's going on. And in an industry that is so under fire, right? And in a culture that is so under fire, I mean, it's being attacked on a daily basis. We just had we had a past city council here in San Jose where every gun owner in San Jose is now going to be legally obligated to have insurance policies, right? And contribute through a donation, a certain amount, a monetary donation to a foundation that is specified by the city of San Jose, right? For being a legal gun owner. You will have to have an insurance. You're basically being taxed on on exercising your constitutional right. If that, and by the way, it ain't going to stop here. I mean, they immediately after passing it, they were served up with a dozen lawsuits, basically fighting it, and it will keep them wrapped up in court. So here's the thing. I mean, I'm going to end up paying anyway, because where are they going to get that money to fight it? It's fucking taxes again, right? But again, my point is under attack, right? At a time when we're like that, losing touch with your customer base at any level whatsoever, I would think is poor practice, poor business. And certainly if you're really in it to support the community and fight for the things that, you know, we're having such a tough time battling at this point. Let's be honest, it's not going to be easy. It's not getting any better. Right.
Yeah, man. After this, so what's interesting is because a lot of the people who influence me in the shooting world are tied to this brand somehow. And I don't know what their ties are. I just know that they use their firearms, but on a big scale. I just think it's funny that because of them doing all this, I've tried to source a firearm from this company and tried to give it a shot so I can gather some information for myself, for my brand, for training other people. And now them not going, honestly, it completely turned me off to buying anything from them. And again, the reason why I say that is because they're not the best firearms company out there, hands down. They're just not. What they're doing is they're buying popularity. And I almost bought into it, and them not showing up for whatever reason it is, because I don't know what it is, made me not feel like they give a shit about the community. Because guess what? Every other company, including the company that I love the most, showed up. And every other influencer, and I'm talking a lot of them, we're talking about millions of followers walking around, showed up. So I don't think that's the real reason. Yeah. I don't know what the real reason is, but I'm not a fan of that. But I am a fan of the fact that everybody was giving the middle finger to the mask people.
So let's move into the some of the highlights, man. You know, some of the things that kind of surprised you outside of the whole mask thing, moving past that. But what were some of the highlights? Because I know, man, from what I saw, there was so much innovation in the last 2 years. Like some real good.
I'm just opening this because we have to talk
real
about
good
parties.
Products. Yeah, for those that aren't watching, that's not an alcoholic beverage. If you know JP, he doesn't drink.
Okay, damn, that's pretty good. Wow, that tastes like a popsicle.
I told you, man. Watch
that's
out.
good, man. Okay, so products. So I ran into this brand that I've never heard of in my life, Valhalla Tactical. Really down to earth guys. I talked to them about some issues that I've had with mag pouches and things like that because they had a display of what they have, and I just kind of poking around, seeing oh, this is cool. I've never seen Kevlar mounting and stuff like that for pouches. And I told them I had some issues with retention. And they're like, that's great because we have solutions for retention. And they do. Are
these pistol mags?
A rifle and pistol.
Okay.
So I've ran the quick, I'm just going to go ahead and say S-Tac. Mm-hmm. And other large brands have the quick plastic fast ones where you see the inserts basically just looks kind of like a taco.
Yeah. Some of them have the plastic ones. Some of them have elastic ones. Some of them have metal ones.
Yeah. So I've ran a couple different brands and I love S-Tac, but I personally stopped using that, not because I don't think it's good or anything like that, because I run base plates, and not even just the weighted ones, just regular ones, and they lose retention when I run base plates.
Oh, interesting.
So they're fast, but you know me, you know I like to play in the mud, you know I like to like run around, and so they don't stay in.
Interesting, man. I have not had issues with my S-Tacs and my base
Most
plates.
people tell me they haven't had issues, but I also have been running base plates and developing these things for like over a year now, so all they know is base plates, you know, and I shoot every week. So with that being said, I like S-Tac a lot, but they had a better retention system. It was plastic, it was like form molded, and it was still tighter, more compressed. And they explained it to me more in depth. Point is, though, it was all the same material types and speed, but better retention. So to me,
just a little bit of innovation.
Yeah, to me, I was just like, awesome. Never heard of you guys. You guys explained this very well, and that's innovation, and that's why we're here at SHOT Show, and that's why you're here, because this is awesome. And now I know who you are, and we traded contact information, and I'm currently like testing out their mag pouches. Another thing that they make is like a concealed carry jacket. I thought that was really cool. People are going into situations thinking like, hey, I carry. This is the type of things that like breakaway garments that don't look breakaway. I
saw some of those. Those look pretty cool.
Yeah, but they're thinking about people who carry now, you know, and that's majority like a civilian thing.
Yeah, it's not just LEO, military, tactical.
Dude, and I told him, I said, you're talking to the right guy, because I don't run around in kit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was super impressed with them. That was one of the companies I've never heard of. And then EOTech, I was super happy to go there. I'm a massive EOTech fan. And everybody's talking about this new pistol optic. Finally came out with the pistol optic.
Right.
So I went there, I got to play with it. I talked to one of the reps there, and he kind of enlightened me and turned me off to it at the same time.
Let's talk about that.
So everybody's like, fuck yeah, dude, EOTech. It's supposed to be $350-ish, under $400 for a price point. And if you guys don't use Trijicon SROs and RMRs like I use.
That's really good. It's very competitive.
Yeah, so $500 to $700 is what you pay for an RMR or an SRO if you're average Joe and you don't have discounts or know people, you know? So $500 to $700 is what you're looking at for the standard all-American. Everybody's looking at these like this is the standard. And EOTech, which is one of the best optic companies, arguably the best. I use them. And they're looking at a $350 price point with their name behind it. And I was like, this is great. I looked at the window. The window looked better than an RMR window. The amount of space, not quite an SRO, but overall it was great.
One of the other things I saw was you could change out the battery from the top. You didn't have to remove you didn't have to remove it from the slide to change out the battery.
So, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this more in the future without going down the path of civilians, but the feedback they get from civilians is why they did the top feeding battery, right? Because there's way more people shooting them now. So they're telling you what they want. The consumer's telling you what they want. They basically, when I was not shooting it, but just handling it with the Glock, I was like, dude, this is covering most of what I want to see in an optic, and you're doing it at a cheaper price. I personally don't need optics with the guns I have now because all of them have Trijicons on them. Right. But, you know, I was excited to see what I can relay to other people, and also plan on doing a review because I think that saving people money and getting good equipment in people's hands for a cheaper price is good.
No doubt about it. EOTech has a great product. I would say this though, like I've always been very, very hesitant to buy version 1.0 of kind of anything, right? So
yeah, it doesn't matter how much of a fan I am of the company. That first one is always like, I'll wait this out a bit.
That said, again, EOTech has a very good track record. So, you know, they might also understand this, right? They're trying to be competitive. Maybe they're putting out a low price point.
Well, they also said that they're sending it out to people, as far as I know, to make sure before the official one comes out to the masses that everything's worked out.
Right. I mean, that's very competitive, man, for a company like that with the quality of product they generally
There's a
out.
but.
Okay, I'm listening.
There's a but. So obviously, you know me, I'm big on let's shift. Americans should shift towards American-made stuff because that refuels our economy. Everybody pays each other. Our economy does good. There's no moral issues going out of country, all that kind of shit, right? So EOTech told me they actually moved this to a foreign manufacturer.
Really?
So now I don't know this from reading anything. This is the conversation I had with the sales rep. So maybe he has some shit wrong, but he's at SHOT Show. Maybe he doesn't have shit wrong. Maybe they legit.
dude, they better not be sending somebody there that's saying that stuff and
They
be
better
wrong
not
about
be.
it.
Yeah. So,
so hold on. What foreign country is it going to? Do you know? Did he say?
I forget. I forget. I don't want to comment on it if I forgot, but I just remember instantly asking him what, why?
Right.
And he was just like, you know what, man, we separated with some people in our company. And since then we've moved manufacturing for this and maybe some other things.
Wow.
And that's kind of the gist of what he said. So again, I'm not going to put words in the guy's mouth or anything like that. But I mean, I remember this conversation vividly because I'm a massive EOTech fan and I
do some investigation.
And I'm not a massive fan of going out of America. That's kind of what's cool about some of these 2A companies is that they're building the best of the best in America. Trijicon right now, I don't know if anybody has a better pistol optic than a Trijicon, and that's all American.
We'll go back to that 350 price point.
Now what does that look like?
Yeah.
That looks like a Holosun with an EOTech stamp on it to me.
Ooh, you went there.
I'm sorry. I can't help it. I can't help it. That's what that looks like to me. And at that point, it looks like the consumers wanting a cheaper price and going towards quote unquote more innovation, but going to a foreign country for that innovation at a cheaper price point.
And what's the true cost of that at the end of the day to both them and the consumer?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I was instantly turned off. I was really disappointed. I still have EOTech optics on my rifles and stuff, and I'm going to continue to do that until something drastic may happen. I don't know. I love my EOTech, but that pretty much turned me off to that optic.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope, man. I mean, you got an optic that works. You got an optic that was made here and produced and made, designed, produced, and made here in the United States of America. To simply say, I'm taking this off of my rifle now because they've decided to maybe, again.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Go.
I haven't done my homework, but this is a real conversation I had with somebody at EOTech.
Yeah, I think that's a slippery slope to go down because you start doing that, you're going to start realizing some things you don't like. Like, that phone you took the fucking picture of that EOTech with wasn't made here. Yeah. You know, so there's that part of it too. Like you have to really think through that. But I do appreciate what you're saying. It's interesting. We should.
I'm going to do my homework on it
because
I definitely plan to run that optic. So, because I wanted to like be able to refer people to like, oh, you can't afford a slide and an optic. Well, here's the options I would give you. One of my buddies just started building a Glock, and obviously he's like buying a bunch of my stuff. And this guy's an outstanding shooter, so I'm not worried about him buying my shit. Like he's the issues aren't in the training for this guy. But yeah, he got like a Brownell slide, but he's doing an RMR because he fucking knows where his money should go.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, look, people can be convicted, but again, you choose as a consumer, right? You choose, and you choose the companies that you feel.
And like the Brownell slide, I don't really know where that's made, but I know that that's like probably the best budget slide that I've known since I've been shooting. People run it and it's got an optic cut and no one ever has issues with it. But like I said, I mean, he forked out the 500 for the RMR.
Yeah. So the optics thing from an innovation perspective just seemed kind of like, I don't want to say dominated from what I saw from the outside looking in, but there were so many new things and everybody was really excited about that EOTech, pistol optic.
Yeah, everybody was talking about that. Yeah. There was also the slim frame Holosun. I was like,
I saw that too.
Cringing the whole time I was walking towards the Holosun booth, but I had to. You have to see innovation. Yep. And honestly, yeah, it's slim. I didn't get to shoot it. I just got to play with it on like a Glock model gun. But I wasn't impressed by anything, but it is a step in the direction of having more slim, less grabby, catchy optics shooting off the top of the slide. Right. So that's cool.
Yeah. And again, it's just one more step in an innovative direction, right? These companies are stepping up and delivering, as you said, what the customer is telling them they want or need. Yeah. And it will drive innovation in other companies and force other companies to do the same. And I love that.
Let's just hope that companies like Trijicon get more innovative because I know people give them shit, but they are the best. But they do it without
fix it if it ain't broke.
Yeah. But do that without going the other route where they're like, oh, let's just make this cheaper. You know what I mean? Like,
doing that is the fastest way to the bottom.
Yeah.
Right. That's the fastest way to run yourself out of business. If all you're doing is just cutting prices and trying to be the cheaper guy. I think most people know that by now. I mean, there's still a lot of room in the firearms business for people to buy cheap shit and throw it on their weapons or whatever, but or whatever they're doing, whatever type of equipment. I guess my point is you start trying to do that and compete as the denominator, right? You won't be around very long.
So I mean, for me,
it's going to blow up in your face.
Everything that I do, like I said, I try to do American made, but like, dude, my profit margins aren't like outstanding, like home run hits, because I try to be competitive with my prices and keep it American made. But dude, the business is coming in and I feel good about the quality that I'm putting out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, again, I'm not some massive company with hundreds or thousands of employees, but I don't know. I feel like with the experience that I have, that there's different ways to do things other than just make cheaper products.
So what else, man? I mean, what were some of the other cool things you saw? Anything else catch you off guard?
I mean, in terms of cool, I'm still like a video game nerd, so I had to go check out the MP7 and MP5 and just play with them so I can feel good about a $50,000 gun.
So weird to me, dude. So weird to me.
No, dude, come on. You know you want to play with the MP5.
Yeah, man. I mean, if I was out there and could get my hands on one of those to play around there, go out to the range. I know a lot of guys were going out and shooting the new stuff out there.
Oh yeah, that's bucket list for me is to shoot to own like a MP5. The H&K booth, I felt like I was at a Louis Vuitton store. Only rich people were there.
I know people give me shit all the time, like that. I've got a number of firearms, but people go, "Well, what's your favorite one?" And I always go back to that HK full size USP 45.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, really, man? Really? There's only 10 rounds and whatever else. I go, that's HK, man. Like, I still, it's a classic gun, man. It's just,
what's weird is that I couldn't morally feel good about myself if I was telling people to buy HKs, but it has nothing to do with the quality or resilience. It's just the price point for what they're getting.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
Are they really going to outrun some of these other guns like MMPs and Glocks?
Listen, again, innovation, right?
Yeah.
Like it used to be maybe the gun, maybe they haven't innovated like everybody else, but I can't argue with you. Like it's double what anything else costs.
Dude, I've seen some H&K AR-15s that have had some serious rounds through them that other people, not me, that have ran flawlessly. And I'm like, yeah, dude. It's a great rifle. Right. I just personally am okay with like a $1,500 BCM.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, no, I get it. I digress.
Yeah.
It's just, look,
I'm still going to buy an
The HK booth has always been known to be like, the shit.
Super Gucci.
Yeah.
Dude, I loved it though.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting seeing like all these gun personalities walking around. I'm not really somebody who like fanboys, so like I just was just walking by people or saying what's up. But yeah, I don't know, man. In terms of like gear and innovation, there's definitely some innovation happening. But something that did surprise me is some of the most massive booths were very. Are you familiar with the term FUD?
Yep. Cool. Serious, dude?
Yeah, I'm just saying like. A lot of these massive booths were like FUD booths. And I was like, I wonder how long that's going to last.
Yeah. So that's interesting. You said that. So we're talking about the concept of FUDs and what you see sort of influencing this innovation, right?
Yeah.
And we keep using that word, but like things like optics, like pistol mounted optics, right? Like it's not the FUDs that are driving that innovation.
No.
Right. It's a much different, demographic.
Yeah.
And while the FUDs were kind of, let's just, the old guys that were kind of in these executive seats or, that are decision makers at some of these bigger companies. I don't know how much longer that lasts, man, because, this industry is moving so fast. It's evolving so quickly. That actually surprises me to hear that, because now the next question is like, how many FUDs do you see walking around in there as compared to the rest of the crowd?
Not many. Right. That's why I was surprised that like most people were excited to go to like Faro Concepts, which was on the main floor, but pretty small booth. Mm. But I mean, they had a lot of people. I didn't really get a chance to talk to them because they were just always busy.
That's great.
Yeah, it was awesome to see because they're actually an innovative soft goods brand, right? But then you have a booth that I'm not going to name any names with this, but a booth that maybe is like 5-6 times the size that like really is the kind of stuff that people get into until they really know what's good firearms gear. And then they're like, oh, fuck, well, that was a stepping stone.
All right, I'm ready to move on.
Yeah.
So speaking of booths, Did you go visit the dudes over at the ATF booth, man?
I seen that and I was like, God. I just walked around it. I didn't actually visit it.
I want to know what the ratio of middle fingers is over at
that must have been a really rough week for them.
I don't even know like who makes that kind of a decision. And by the way, that's what my tax dollars are paying for.
Yeah.
For those dudes to be at SHOT Show and stay at Caesar's Palace or whatever else. Like, no thanks. Like,
yeah, dude,
that's crazy.
I thought that was really crazy that they had like balls to like show up to that. Especially like they have to know too, when everybody's giving the middle finger to like people at the doors with the masks, that they're definitely not welcome.
Yeah, I like it. I don't know. It just seems, it seems funny to me.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, there was some, like I said, there were some names I've never heard of, or maybe names that aren't big enough for how awesome they are.
That's great.
Tracer Tactical does soft goods and super innovative guy. Aaron's a great guy, dude. But like when he explains things to me, I'm like, how are you not the leader in soft goods right now? You know what I mean? It's a matter of time. It's a matter of time.
Yeah, a lot of that. And in these kind of environments, just give people, again, the exposure, the potential customer exposure, but also them exposure. And yeah, I mean, that's another important part about this is for the small business owner, especially when they make that investment in time to get themselves out there. And you start asking questions like, why is he alone? And I think it gives, why is he out here all by himself or whatever in this tiny little booth over here in the corner or whatever. Other people with tiny little booths that are over in the other corner see that, and
they call it the dungeon.
Yeah.
The basement.
Yeah, more or less. But it gives it, I think maybe it inspires people to get together, right? And be innovative and support one another. And I think that's where the real power is in the small business owner in this thing now, as compared to some of these massive people that did and didn't show up to the show. And with the the presence of social media and kind of the fire that's now spreading with regard to firearms community and the things that it can bring to the table and the great people that are in it, it's a really good time to be one of those small guys, right? I mean,
yeah, I know for me, like it's a great time for me.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. Like I see stuff happening and I'm just like, just keep grinding, man. Like,
yeah, dude,
just keep putting in the sweat, because there will be rewards at the end as long as you stick to those. Again, you got very clear goals, very defined values, and it's crazy. Like I know how busy you are, kind of coming in and out of stuff, and I can't imagine what will happen for you after kind of connecting with some of these people and being in front of them, because it's one thing to see a great product and hear other people talking about it, and then you meet the people behind the product. Obviously, again, one of the major things about these shows for the small business owner. And
no, it's huge, because another thing I get all the time, which was something that I'm not gonna lie to you, dude, I kind of treated Tracer Tactical like this too, so I get it, is until you either A, meet the person, or B, actually hold the products, you think this is some no name that wants to get in the business, but who are they? What kind of like quality do they have?
Yeah, you've done that grind.
Yeah,
you've been laughed at. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So they're like, why would I rock this? One of my buddies actually, a couple of my friends were telling me a story at the Black Rifle party. They're like, yeah, this fucking guy buys Strike Industries. Fuck. He buys some Strike Industries base plates instead of yours or whatever, right? I guess they were like on sale or something somewhere. And from what I know about them is they're 3D printed, I believe. So they're not billet.
No idea.
I like the company and they make innovative stuff. But from what I know, 3D printed plastic base plates probably aren't the most durable.
Not yet anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. So I'm not shitting on the company, but this is a funny story, dude. And like, he basically was just like, yeah, they were fucking on sale, dude. I had to get them. I was like, you really didn't buy my base plates. I would have even given you the fucking homie hookup. And he was just like, yeah, I regret it, dude, because I fucking broke them the first day on the range.
Wow. Not cool.
But the point of me saying that though is that a lot of people don't really know until they know. And like Tracer Tactical is one of those people where he sent me some stuff. And because I was a huge fan of the triple feed directional Swift mag pouch. And he actually was the main component in creating that. I think it was like their idea, their brainchild, and like he made it happen. and he's the one that created it, as far as I know, if I'm getting that right. And my point is, because I rocked that and I fucked with that so much, he was like, hey man, I feel like I can improve your chest rig by using my straps, just give them a shot. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude, I already like what you did with triple feed. Mm-hmm. Dude, they're way better than all the shit I was running before. And I was running the most popular ones.
Right. So that's interesting. So we've talked about the influencer, right? And let's talk about transparency and transparency in what I hear you saying right now, because with all the things that have happened in the last couple of years, and when I say last couple of years, I mean, it's all happened kind of online, like all the communication, all the advertisement, all the stories are getting told online. And we already know that the majority of the people that are using this stuff are not, the consumer is not telling the story.
Yeah.
Right. They're not telling the story. Somebody else is telling the story. Now, obviously it's up to the company that manufactures, or the company, the brand, to tell the story, and how they tell the story can be very interesting. So you were talking about influencers and somebody that you were running all the most popular stuff, mm-hmm. right? And that you would have never known had you bumped into this person or you ran this particular product or whatever. And the only way you're going to hear about that product is in this particular situation, or unless a friend tells a friend, or it's kind of obscure almost, right? So let's talk about the transparency of this and how these products are hitting the market, and I guess how they're being represented and who's representing them. So we already kind of talked about these big companies, right, that maybe sponsor mm-hmm. these other companies. Again, gun company sponsors maybe an instruction company, right, who also sells some products. And they don't say they're sponsored by this company, right, company A.
Yeah.
But yet all they're running is their stuff. There's constant imagery of their stuff. But there's no like affiliation, like public affiliation outside of what looks like an obvious affiliation. So
yeah. So basically, if it looks like you're, for example, it looks like LeBron James is sponsored by Nike, because guess what? All he ever wears is Nike, and they also make his shoes, right? But the point is that he literally only wears Nike, right? But if he never said he's sponsored by them, you probably wouldn't know the difference, because all he ever wears is Nike, right? Now in the gun world, and this isn't just...
But is that a problem that he's loyal to that brand?
It's not a problem that he's loyal to the brand, especially when you're a billionaire like LeBron James. But it's a problem when you're making $100, $300, $400 for basically doing somebody else's job and somebody else's work for a month to months of work.
What do you mean by
that? So there's like affiliates and ambassador programs for a lot of these companies in the shooting world, also in fitness, as you know.
Yeah, because this isn't a new concept.
It's not a new concept. The thing is, it bothers me a lot because it's in the fitness and shooting world. It's really bad because it sways people into bad products when virtually they're either using a weapon or a tool that's supposed to help them survive for self-defense, or a fit tee is not going to get you abs. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I got you.
So my point is here that what's happening in the 2A community is you have a brand that's reaching out to a bunch of people who have a solid, respectable following with consistent activity on their page, offering them ambassador programs or discount codes. And you feel good for having Train with Purpose 10, but ultimately you're constantly running marketing for them. Even if you have 1,000 followers, that's 1,000 people that you made a deal with the devil to run a 10% discount code. That's what you get, and your followers 10% off, right? So that in your stories and your posts, they stay in your rotation in a healthy manner, whether that's 5 posts a week, 1 post a week, maybe reviews through video or whatever, right? You get a 10% discount code if you're like an ambassador. Or maybe you get that with a couple of their products, right? Maybe it's a holster company. Maybe they give you 2 to 3 variations of their holster. They give you a discount code, and they say Train with Purpose 10, and then Now they gave you $100 worth of products, $150 worth of products, something in that. It costs them nothing, but it costs you $150, right?
If you were to purchase it.
If you were to purchase it, but instead you're getting that for free. And now what you're doing is making a video for them.
But you're not getting it for free.
You're not getting it for free because essentially you're working for them now. And you might make a video. Maybe they don't want you to make a video. Maybe they just maybe they notice that you're good at pictures. And so they ask for a picture in rotation every couple of days that's using their holster company A, right? And now anybody out of that 1,000 followers, for example, that follows you is under the assumption that, fuck, well, dude, JP runs this holster and I see this dude shredding. Like, this is his go-to holster. I think I might take a look.
I need that.
Right? And believe it or not, even though my following's not in the millions yet, I get these questions all the time. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not an ambassador or an affiliate for anybody, but I get these questions all the time and I give them honest answers. There was a time period recently where I made holsters with a holster company with my prints on them, and maybe it was a little bit of luck and timing, or maybe it just wasn't meant to be, but I stopped moving forward with it after running the GBRS holster because I was like, look, I'm not going to make a holster that's not as good as the holster I want to run, which isn't my own brand, right? And so with that being said, you have these companies that are going around and essentially they're having you work for them at any rate, 5 posts a week, 1 post a week, whatever it is, for a 10% discount code, which on a $100 holster, which is the average for a modern holster, right? That's $10 off for whatever hours you put weekly into posting or making videos or stories or whatever, right? And then everybody who follows them and knows that that's who you rock, now they respect this, and that gets stuck in their head like, well, maybe this is what I want to go with. But again, am I using holster company A or am I buying a GBRS holster? JP's buying a GBRS holster. That's why I don't have a sponsor, because they don't sponsor me and that's the holster I want to use. Right? So that's kind of what's happening in the 2A community right now.
Well, there's part of this. So I got a couple things here. First, the first thing would be what's fundamentally wrong with me repping another company, man? Like, and I'm asking that sort of tongue in cheek, but what's the problem with that?
What, repping another company?
Yeah. So what's the problem with me taking this 10% discount code and $150 in product and to post 5 times about them or whatever?
There's no problem with that if that's actually choice number 1 for you.
Got you.
Now, if it's not choice number 1 for you, then essentially you're selling out, right?
Yes. And so that's the fundamental problem I would have too, that you are not being honest. Mm-hmm. Like what you're not being honest with yourself maybe, and you're certainly not being honest with your quote unquote followers or the community at large, which I have the biggest problem with. Yeah, no,
I try to be transparent about everything. Like, anybody who's received a free base plate from me because either we're friends or I want real feedback, I ask them, no, really give me real feedback. I'd ask you to be a professional and not go bash me on the internet. But really though, like if something breaks or something's wrong, like tell me, I want to make this better, right? I need to be better if I need to be better. I want the best base plate, right? You don't see me telling people or giving people discount codes and say, only use my shit and only tell everybody it's the best and this and that. I actually had somebody who takes photos for me. I gave him a discount code, and for me giving him a few base plates, he'll give me photos on a regular basis. Cause the bottom line is I just don't have time to take my own product photos anymore. Mm-hmm. I just don't. So
that's the benefit. That's the benefit to the company.
So it helps me to give somebody that I respect that they take photos. I have a few people that I do
that's
this
called
with.
Bartering, right, man? That's an age old practice.
Yeah, exactly. So this person's like, hey man, can I get, one of the newest black multicam base plates? It's like, look, man, I sold out, but I have a couple blems left. If you want a blem, I'll give you a blem. Just know it's one I didn't feel comfortable selling. And he's like, I'll take it. Do you mind if I take pictures of it? Should I get the good side only? I was like, do whatever the fuck you want with it. I want the real thing.
But that's you representing your own product with the pictures that this guy's taken, right?
Yeah.
Not you're saying, take these pictures, take these base plates, and rep my product.
I'm not telling him to sell it to people. I mean, that's usually what ends up happening because people like my shit.
Yeah, that's the whole other end of this.
Yeah. But the thing with him is he was even confused on like, wait a second. So like I don't have to run these, or like I can get all angles of the picture. I was like, yeah, do whatever you want. I'm giving this to you because you take photos for me. But if you have issues, please tell me if there's issues. But like, I'm not asking you to do anything. Like, right. But the issue isn't people like that. At least I don't think. The issue is that if you run a $5,000 staccato and you rock nothing but Chinese made optics on it with a $5,000 staccato, are you going to tell me that money's the issue? That's why you went with a Chinese made optic?
Wait. So hold on. So wait. Time out. So I hear where you're going with this, but it almost sounds like what you said there. And I'm just trying to open up a little friendly debate. It sounds like what you just said there is why would you put a $150 optic on a $5,000 gun?
Well, maybe $100.
Maybe I really like this optic, man. I really like the way it performs. I do.
Okay. So my argument to that would be, I love Trijicon. I actually really have been getting into the Leopold optics too. With that being said, I think it's pretty straightforward that SROs have the biggest, easiest window, great glass clarity. And outside of dropping it at 6 feet on cement, they're not like breaking down. I run one on my carry and I run it pretty hard and I've never had issues. I have an RMR that I've dropped multiple times. No issues. Window's kind of small. My point in saying all this is like $500 to $700 value for your average person with those. Pretty much the firearms world knows that that's the standard. And even if you're that one person that's like, I shoot better with a holographic looking reticle versus the standard dot. Okay, cool. If that's your reason for going China made for a third of the price or whatever, maybe that's your reason. That's kind of a weird thing considering you have a $5,000 staccato, which is virtually a race gun, right? The one person who does that here and there, I guess there's like those outliers, but when you have professionals doing like gun reviews and they've only been known to give respectful reviews, they gain this huge following off of like giving reviews on the best of the best and doing 1,000 round burn downs and shit like that and just drop tests. And you're like, this is awesome. And then all of a sudden, every single gun that they own has a China made half price optic. Whether there's innovation or not, like it's most likely a lower quality optic. And like I said, majority of the gun community can probably agree with that. Maybe it's not the top 3 optics out there if you had unlimited money. So my point is, even if you don't say you're owned by this company, but that's all you run, and it's truly not A, the best value, or B, the best product, to me, it sounds like you're being sold, right?
Or you're being bought.
Or yeah, you're being bought. Yeah. Excuse me.
Well,
yeah.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're representing a company without saying you're representing a company.
Yeah. And it almost seems like
there's a term for that.
Yeah. It almost seems like you're too scared to admit that you're representing the lesser company.
Yeah. You're not being transparent about the relationship that you might have with this company and that they might have with you. Now that doesn't mean you're not a fan, right? And you can't run whatever you want to run.
Yeah.
But your suspicion is that this is not being honest.
Yeah.
Like, and not that they have to say anything, but that you want them to say or be honest about what they're doing.
It's just like the fitness world with steroids and stuff like that.
This is something I'm very familiar with, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, if somebody's like, yo, do my program and they don't tell you they're doing steroids, it's like, well, fuck you, dude. Like I'm not going to lie to you, dude. I know that there's like people in CrossFit that inspired me in the early days. And then coming around after training 5-6 hour days after a couple of years, realizing, oh, that's not attainable without PEDs.
Right. So you were unaware.
I was unaware.
And so maybe what the reason you're pissed is because you feel like these people that are influencing other people are doing so without being transparent about why they're trying to influence them with these particular optics or in this thing. And those people are unaware and they're buying these products thinking that they are the best quality product for whatever it is their application is. And in your opinion, they're absolutely not. and that's a problem.
Yeah, and so like if you're not a competitive shooter, everybody has a different pocketbook. If you're not a competitive shooter, you probably want the most reliable optic on your most reliable firearm for self-defense or for a duty.
I don't think anybody's going to argue with that.
Okay, so if that's the case, like I said, I don't know how many times I've dropped my RMR sprinting around up and down hills. I can tell you not just from my personal experience, but I mean, it's pretty well known that like that's the go-to, maybe not for window size, but for raw durability. And my point is, if I wanted a family member or a close friend to like set up a gun, I'd say, go get yourself a Glock, put an RMR on it. That's it.
Call it good. Yeah.
Not even any of my Train with Purpose products, just an RMR that's going to survive an Armageddon, and then a stock Glock, right? Because most people won't even know how to outshoot or feel the differences between a Glock and something else like a staccato that does shoot better. You know what I mean? And by the way, probably isn't as reliable. So my point in saying all this is that like, there's a couple things. The firearms community especially should be held under a higher standard because A, we're supposed to be patriotic. This is probably the most patriotic community and like business, like space that there is, right? Because you have so much military and law enforcement and freedom fighting going on, whether that's for just, being censored, being able to speak freely or, owning firearms or whatever it is. If that's the case, then why are you buying nothing but cheap China-made stuff, which is essentially, from what I've collected, giving other countries money and possibly our enemy, right?
I can't argue that.
You would assume this would be the most self-aware group of people, right? And then you have these people with hundreds of thousands or millions of followers / views doing China optic stuff.
Right. So
I'm just like, what?
Look, JP, I'm playing along here. I think I share a lot of the same sentiments, and the comparison I would make. Well, first off, I want to call attention to the word you used or the phrase you just said that about these companies being held more accountable, the firearms community, again, products community being held more accountable. My question to that would be, it's a bit rhetorical, is who's responsible for that, right? Should it be the companies? Because as soon as you start doing that, it's like asking the government to self-govern itself.
No. It's the game, dude. It's the civilians, the consumer, right, whatever, military, it doesn't matter. The consumer that's buying everything and then getting a hard on when they get a 10% discount code, you're pushing these shit lights and these shit optics who I can't even believe I've seen law enforcement people run some of these lights that have been proven to be shit. Not only are they foreign made, not to sound super fucking America, but like not only are they foreign made, but dude, like they're just not the best candela. They're not the best lumens. They're not the best weapons manipulations. And people are running them because A, they're cheap, and B, so many influencers have given them the green light that they feel less bad about being a cheap ass.
Right. So there's a lack of awareness, right? And or they've not bothered to become more aware. They've taken somebody else's word for it. That comes back to accountability. And so as much as the firearms manufacturers or, again, equipment, let's say vendors, need to be held accountable to that, so does the consumer.
I think more so the consumer.
I would agree with you 100%. Yeah. So this is, we can draw a parallel between this and the fitness industry, right? So if I go back 8 years, 10 years ago, with where the fitness industry was specific to social media and the stuff that's being pumped out through social media about this is the best exercise, this is the best supplement, this is the best diet, and whatever else. So we go back then, anybody could get on and say anything, and they were an automatic expert if they got on with their shirt off and they had abs, right? Or they post the booty pic, right? This is the supplement I use, this is the exercise I do, this is the freaking shorts or clothes that I wear or whatever else. And this is what got me here, right? When we all knew that, not all of us, where a good number of us knew that was bullshit, right? Yeah. And from an industry perspective, right? Even, and I'm not going to take away from the consumers, not every consumer is buying into that shit, but we watched how much of that happened.
There's a good amount of
right?
it,
because it got so popular. I mean, the fitness industry lives on Instagram right now. This is where it is. But what had happened was over time, they began to be held accountable, and they were being held accountable by first the people in the industry going, these people are idiots. Stop listening to this. But the voices, that low barrier of entry voice, right, with the shirtless pic and the booty pics were still louder. They were getting more attention. They were getting more likes. There was more sizzle behind that. And that had to happen for a long time. While still the industry was like, we're trying to be as loud as we can. We're trying to call people out by not calling maybe them out directly. However, that's happened now, by calling the consumer out directly and saying, please don't listen to this. Don't believe this. They're going to try to sell you this all day long. They're going to sell you the fit tea and it's garbage. It's diarrhea tea. That's what it is. But enough people had to get diarrhea before they realized all these fit teas are bullshit. And now it's the consumer, right, that's saying the fit teas are bullshit, right? And the fitness industry doesn't have to say much about that anymore. Fitness and diet industry doesn't have to say about that anymore. But it took a long time for that to happen. How
much older is the fitness industry, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I'm comparing like where the fitness industry was 8 or 10 years ago. I think that's where the firearms industry is right now.
And I always come back to this where I say, I don't know why people don't talk about how young the firearms industry is.
It's in its infancy. I mean, while it's one of our longest standing, constitutional rights and largely a part of why we are the United States of America, right? The industry and its popularity is in its infancy. I mean, right? So I agree with you.
Well, 100%. Dude, at SHOT Show, they're releasing things like there's so much innovation on night vision. Do you think that's because of the military, or do you think that's because all of our friends have $10,000, $15,000 nods?
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah, these are not kids buying this stuff. No. Right. It's being driven purely by the civilian community. Yeah. Right. Why? Because they're using it in their video games. Yeah. But they're also seeing it being peddled, right, through Instagram, right, or through social media. I do that. I'm a business owner. You're a business owner. I'm not saying I don't. I'm going to represent my product where I can, where it's free to do so and whatever else. There's nothing wrong with that. To your point, it's being driven by the consumer demand, and that consumer is your general population.
It's the problem of the consumer.
And it's, again, the old adage, buyer beware, right? And make sure you've said this a million times at this point, so kind of ad nauseum. You need to know where your shit's coming from. You need to learn about it, and you need to know who's selling it to you. And if you can't get in front of the person that's selling it to you to ask them questions, and all you're going through is the guy with 1,500 followers or 1,000 followers that's posting, because he gets a,
ambassador,
train with purpose 10, or whatever. That's not a good way to be making investments, particularly when they have to do with potentially life-saving or life-threatening situations. So this is one thing to be taking care of your health and wellness on one side and listening to dipshit who's got his shirt off, can eat Pop-Tarts all day long. He's 25 years old and all of a sudden he's a fitness expert.
I know that very well.
And that does have long-term ramifications, but the decision you're making on the equipment that you're purchasing or the vendors that you're utilizing to potentially protect yourself, your family, your livelihood, right? And all the things that are involved there by taking advice and buying products based on an ambassador's review and his Train with Purpose 10 discount code, I think that's going to end very poorly. For first the consumer. The consumer's always the one that's going to eat that one in the shorts right now. And then ultimately it will catch up with the manufacturer, the vendor. The cream always rises to the top in these situations. How long does it take? I'm hoping my hope is within this particular industry that process is accelerated.
Well, that's what we're trying to do here, right? Because information
that's why we're here.
It goes around so quickly now. So we're hoping to make some sort of positive impact on that. I don't know. I'm not saying I know everything or anything close to that, but I'm pretty confident about this situation, especially not only the space that we have in the 2A community with what it's founded on and why people shoot and the shirts that they wear, that Freedom, America and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that they should give a shit about where it's made, But then also, like I said, my experience in the fitness industry, I don't know how many times I've grown up with a kid that had abs his whole life. People go to him for diet advice. Little do they know he eats Carl's Jr. every day.
Yep.
It didn't go to me, lost 120 pounds, never went to me. Fucking weird, you know?
What would you know?
What the fuck would I know, you know? I also know a girl that I trained with that was an outstanding CrossFit competitor who was on like a Whole Foods diet and then turned vegan and started selling this vegan tea and all this kind of shit when she actually looks better before going vegan.
And competed better, probably.
And competed better and all this kind of shit, which that's a whole nother conversation. But my point is she just became vegan and started selling this vegan lifestyle when everything that she was built upon was a Whole Foods diet.
Something different.
Yeah, pretty much. Essentially something different. So yeah, dude, I mean, let's just get the bullshit out now.
Yeah, we need everybody's help to do that, right?
Yeah.
We need the manufacturer, the vendor end, right? The gear people, right? The people within the industry to do a better job to check one another, hold one another accountable in a helpful, productive way.
Yeah.
Not talk shit about one another, which we're seeing.
I know
I
get fired up about stuff, but I'm not trying to talk shit, man. I'm actually trying to make things better.
I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're 100% on the same page. And from the consumer perspective, we're just asking, maybe the consumer, kind of making a reach out or a call out. This is the call to action. Just think a little bit more critically before making these decisions, because it's going to help the whole. It's going to help you potentially land into a better product. And guess what? And you've already mentioned it. Like you're going to buy products, and you have to buy those products, run those products, train with those products to recognize whether or not they suit your needs or they don't. And your particular situations, we talked about that before. Everybody's got their own situation. So maybe that very inexpensive, cheaply made, mag holder is the right one for you based on your use or your experience.
Mm-hmm.
But if you train with it one time every 6 months, right? And then all of a sudden you're being repped because you take good pictures, or you're repping somebody because you can take good pictures and put it out there, and you can influence people somehow and give them a 10% off code. That might not be very good for the person that trains weekly, wants to train weekly, who's getting into this stuff. And so again, that's maybe a really horrible example, but hey, think a little bit more critically about the people you're buying your stuff from, the people you're listening to that are trying to sell you stuff, and what's their motivation, right?
Yeah.
Behind doing that. And again, there's a credibility, there's an integrity thing, and there's a transparency thing, I think, that comes into that as well. And that's all we're saying. It seems to, the waters have gotten a little bit muddy because there's money involved. A lot of fucking money.
There's a lot of money involved.
There's a lot of money involved here. And so it's gotten a little cloudy.
And you know what, dude, with all the fitness influencers, gun influencers on social media, dude, like it seems like they're really reaping the benefits of this, if anybody, because they get the best. I feel like it was Reno May who posted that he ordered something from a company on a different name. I want to say it was him.
Oh, he didn't disclose who he was.
Yeah, to see if he got a lesser product. It was either him or T-Rex Arms. It was one of the two. But the point is, that's a great idea, because you didn't get all-star treatment. You got the average fucking consumer treatment, and it was different.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Yeah. And that's how shit is nowadays, dude. And that's how this fucking industry is. And I don't think it should be that way. I got bamboozled about a couple things early on. Yeah. I mean, there was somebody I followed on YouTube with hundreds of thousands of followers that like is great at overlanding. I think it is, like Tacomas and shit like that. Just always out living out fucking his fieldcraft best life. Mm-hmm. And like I almost bought into some bullshit Chinese lights, dude, because of it. And then actually like doing some research outside of him doing his discount code spiel every video, I was like, oh fuck, dude, I'm so glad I didn't go down that path. But the sway that this person has with how much weight is behind their voice, right?
Massive.
And like, what are you getting out of that? What's the pros and cons? Like, okay, so you make a living doing this. Morally, how do you feel? Does it affect you? Does it not affect you? You're not responsible for grown-ass men and women buying
making
whatever
decisions,
their own decisions, right? But I also know I wouldn't feel good. Like, dude, I think about this with my parts all the time. I run them hard all the time because guess what? I don't want the mistakes to happen on somebody else's gun. I want them to happen with me so I can best suit everybody else and prepare them for what they're getting to be high quality versus like, oh shit, this fucked up. Like I found out because so-and-so, you know, fucking blew their barrel off because they got a squib round because the follower fucking was backwards or some weird shit like that happened from my base plate, you know? But knock on wood. But my point is, like, as a company, I feel like you should be working that shit out, hoping that you get nothing but positive feedback.
But expecting that you're going to get some constructive feedback because it's not the same situation for everybody.
No,
and you should be thankful when you do.
Yeah, because it's supposed to make you better and then make the product to the consumer better.
Yeah, in a day and age where you can monetize your Instagram, you can monetize your YouTube by simply getting views and sizzle. Apparently, not everybody really recognizes how that whole situation works, and we're just asking. I guess I'm just asking, hey, just take a little harder look at what you're getting, where you're getting it from, why the person is saying what they're saying about it, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And if they don't answer those questions, that's a pretty good indication that they don't care or they don't want to answer your question, neither of which is good.
Yeah.
Right? And simple. And as an industry, as a consumer, I want to be treated that way. As a business owner, I pride myself on. We're not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. There are things that we could be doing better on a daily basis. And I want them to let me know when we need to do those things. Yeah. Again, doesn't mean the customer's right every time, but again, ask those questions. If you're not getting answers, it means one of two things. It means they don't have the ability to respond to the customer wants and needs, right? And they need to work that shit out in today's day and age. There's no excuse. Maybe it takes a little while to get back, but somebody on the other end should be getting back to you, and they should be giving you more than a cookie cutter answer.
Dude, there needs to be innovation as a company, and there also needs to be a fucking ear to the ground.
Right. Again, keeping your finger on the pulse. And I think that's the accountability that the consumer should demand of the people that they're buying their products from. Yeah. And I think that's an expectation and a commitment that these vendors or these companies should be making to the consumer. I think it should be like that across the board. I'm just going to hold this particular community to a little bit of a higher standard because I really believe that's how we think about ourselves. Yeah. The reality of it is that how we're living?
Yeah, because it's weird that everybody's so like got a hard on for freedom fighting, and then like all this weird shit's going on where like you just have no idea like where you're buying your shit from, who you're buying your shit from, what those people are actually reaping the benefits of why you're buying that, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, man, like I said, you always know too that these people rocking all these companies, dude, if they really had to answer what their number one choice was, it's not that sponsored brand.
Yep.
So it's not almost every time.
So the call is vet your shit as a consumer, ask the questions, think about things, think critically. And as a vendor or somebody that supplies equipment, firearms, whatever to your customers out there, make sure you're in touch with your customer, keep your finger on the pulse so that you can be in touch with your product and contribute, right? Contribute at a productive and a successful level for both your customer and your business for the long term.
Yeah.
I don't think that's too much to ask.
Yeah. I think everybody wins in that case, right?
1,000%.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I know that was kind of like a rant on like transparency, but I think that's what everybody should want. But yeah, it's definitely not what we get. I know I just worked out with one of our shooting buddies who was making a joke about how his Chinese optic, which is the most popular company, the lens like popped off or some shit like that. And it's like a joke, except it's like not really funny because like,
not when it counts.
Not when it counts, dude.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Well, speaking of counting, you got to get out of here, dude. You got to be up early tomorrow. Range time. We got 8 a.m. tea time, right?
Yeah. Since this is the SHOT Show episode, just quick shout out to Triple Feed for fucking giving me the tour and getting me into the fucking fat parties, dude.
There's a good group of guys down there.
Yeah, dude.
Man, I hope to hook up with those guys soon. So
yeah, man.
Anyway, thanks for joining me tonight, JP.
Yeah, man. Always.